Hello?
Yo,
Hey, what's up?
hey, we got like 2 weeks till football season. We need to make some predictions.
Dude, let's go.
All right, get in here.
Yep.
2 very boring minutes later.
There you are.
Let's go.
All right, let's do it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to It's in the Blood. I'm Alex. That's Papa Blood. We are back in action together again. It's been so long since we've been in this position. We are going to try to accurately or not accurately predict this NFL upcoming season, and we're going to start with
NFC South
and
AFC South.
I feel like the AFC NFC South is a good place to start on these predictions because it's arguably, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, arguably the weakest of the four East, South, North, and West.
I think it's safe to say that they're going to be the most unpredictable because they've had the biggest changes and both divisions had a lot of struggles. So I think that's going to be a good place to start.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of question marks to go along with this one. Let's start with the NFC South.
So for first place in the NFC South this year, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons at 10-7. Second place within the division, I'm going to sneak back down to New Orleans, and I'm going to take Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints at a record of 9-8. Third, I'm going to sneak in there with Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at a balmy 7-10. And fourth, I will take the Carolina Panthers at a mediocre 6-11.
Wow. Yeah, I'll go through mine, but I do have some wows for that because we are not on the same page, and I thought we'd be a little bit closer on this one, but this, like you said at the beginning, kind of an unexpected, we don't know what to expect division, but for my number one, and this was not me being a homer, full disclaimer, I'm done doing that. This is a new year, and I'm not going to go all out on teams unrealistically anymore. But my number one, I have the Saints coming in at a 9-8. I feel like this division is not any stronger than it was last year, and the schedules are not favorable for any of these teams. And so for my number two, barely due to divisional record, is going to be the Falcons at 7-10, with the Panthers also at 7-10. But like I said, the divisional difference is what puts the Falcons at number 2 and the Panthers at 3. And then the Bucs are my bottom of the barrel team, my dumpster fire team of the year, 1 of 2, and I have them sitting at 3-14.
Interesting. I felt like the only thing I can say about the difference between yours and mine there is that I think Tampa Bay is still a little bit stronger on the defensive side. And I think Baker Mayfield is on his last leg, but I think that they're going to be a little more competitive than what you're giving them credit for.
So in my notes for this division with the Bucs, I do have them very low at 3-14, but I really believe that this is going to be a headache team, like kind of an example of last season, the Houston Texans, even the Chicago Bears. They could have won a lot of games. They just didn't because they were not a complete team, but they took lots of good teams to the wire week after week after week. I think this is going to be what that Buccaneers team looks like. We have many question marks next to Baker Mayfield. We don't know what he's going to look like. I think it's going to be a rough year. They lost Tom, and so they're in a position where, kind of like the Packers, but not so confident, I think, in reinventing themselves in a way. This is a new era for the Bucs, and I think there's just going to be a lot of growing pains there.
Fair enough. I think the pressure is off of Todd Bowles this year. Last year was kind of a pressure-ridden year. This year he can go back to just coaching. And I just remember how good of a defensive coach he always is. You know, I'm a firm believer that defense will keep you in every game of the season. You're going to need a little help on the offensive side. You and I are a little apart on how many wins they get, primarily because, you know, the uncertainty of Baker Mayfield. I don't think we're too far off. Maybe I'm giving Baker a little bit more credit in this system than he deserves.
I'm a realist when it comes to Baker Mayfield, and anybody in the comments, you can feel free to roast me, but I do not like that guy, and I feel like, you know, he's the equivalent to Carson Wentz anymore. Past his prime, maybe can win a couple games, but I don't feel confident in it. But a couple key notes to talk about on the other three real quickly, just to run through. The Saints did add Derek Carr. There's a lot of slander on Derek Carr. I don't think he's as bad as he's shown over the years. He is an average quarterback, but he can win games. I think Olave is going to take a huge leap in year 2. They've got a solid defense, and they're going to continue to grow with a lot of new young pieces as well. And so that's pretty much all I have right there. For the Panthers, I gave them 7 wins, and that was an optimistic 7 based on results from last season with this powerful defense that they have. But I think, you know, I think 7, it might be too high, but I'm going to leave it at that because, like, I would like to see that out of this young team. And like I said, I think they're going to go through a lot of growing pains, but they do have a lot of good offensive pieces that should be able to help them score, and their defense should be able to keep them in games. And last one, the Falcons. I think they have a relatively complete offense from running back situation to tight ends to wide receivers and even Desmond Ridder. I think Desmond Ridder will be the growing pain part of that because he's still so young. But also, on the other side of the ball, they've added a lot of pieces to that defense to try to tighten things up a little bit more. So I think they're going to be another fun team to watch this season.
Yeah, I really like Atlanta. I feel like coaching-wise, the team was going in a great direction last year. They made the move at the right time to let Desmond Ridder get some snaps. Desmond Ridder was a pro-style quarterback in college, even though, you know, he comes from UC. Going forward, they got all the weapons. They got everything that they need on offense. And then, you know, they've got a good secondary on defense, and they were competitive up till the very end of the year. All I think is that they need to take just 1 or 2 steps forward, and they can win that division. Back to Derek Carr in New Orleans. I am not a Derek Carr fan. I feel like Derek Carr is very average. I feel like he's Andy Dalton for $30 million. I love Andy too, but I feel like their statistics are very equal. So I feel like New Orleans is going to be playing on that threshold somewhere around 8 to 10 wins, but they will be a good team. I commented on Todd Bowles' defense. I love Tampa's defense. I don't care much for the offense, although I love Mike Evans. And then speaking of Carolina, I think Bryce Young is going to get hit a lot this year. I do not think that his stature is going to be stable in the NFL. I think he's going to have to really work hard not to get hurt frequently. He's got the talent. But this preseason hasn't shown me anything that showed that they can protect him and let his talent come out. The guy's going to be literally running for his life out there. And that's the reason why I had them down a little bit. But they've had a great defense. I think there's a lot of good positives on defense. I just found the most positives on offense in Atlanta and New Orleans. So I think those will be the 2 cream of the crop in the division.
Yeah, and, every year I annually crown a dumpster fire division of the year. And it was the Souths last year, and I'm just going to go ahead and state that I'm giving it right back to the Souths this year. Not one more than the other, but they've got a lot to prove before they get off of that one. So you ready to head to the other side, to the other conference, and take on the AFC South?
Absolutely. I love the AFC South.
Would you like me to go first, or you want to go first?
Go ahead and go first this time. I want to see what you have to say.
All right. So coming in at number 1, this should be surprise to nobody except for maybe teams in this division. I've got the Jacksonville Jaguars winning the division with a 10-7 record. And I know what you're going to say. They can win more games. They can win more games. This is going to be an amazing team. And we'll get into that after he gets through his also. And so jumping down to my number 2, and I almost feel like I regret this one. And this is one of my few regrets. But I have the Colts coming in second at 8 and 9. Maybe a little high. But I'm going to ride with it due to optimism. And number 3 and 4 are tied. It's going to be the Texans and Titans, with the Titans a slight edge due to, more AFC wins. That's what it come down to comparing these. I have both teams coming at 7 and 7, finishing 3 and 3 in the division. So I couldn't pick a bottom team, so they're both going to be at the bottom.
Absolutely. Got my side on the AFC South this year, coming in first. I give them one more win, but I think Jacksonville is continually on the rise. Doug Peterson is a great coach. I think they're going to be an 11-6 team. I am not fond of the next 3 down. I am going to go ahead and give Tennessee the second place in this division, and they're going to be coming in at a balmy 8 and 9. Third place in this division is going to be the Indianapolis Colts. Although I think they might have the most dynamic quarterback out of the draft this year, I know there's going to be ups and downs, and a 6-11 record is right where I got them. And although I love CJ Stroud, I think Houston is still a couple years away. I've got them at a 5-12 mark.
I think that's actually really respectable. And if I had done my schedules any differently than I normally have, I probably would have had it might have been identical. I just have a very odd system of how I make these decisions. But so we'll go ahead and talk about these teams a little bit before we wrap things up today. Jacksonville, the most exciting team in that division. We both can agree that. Not only are they coming off a playoff win last year after being 2-15 the season before, they got Calvin Ridley, who'll be off suspension. He's a lot of speed to add to this offense. I think that's going to open up the field for Trevor Lawrence just even more. And I think they've got a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. I'm not really too sure about their running back situation, but other than that, I like the squad they have. They've got Evan Ingram back at the tight end position, who had a great breakout year with T-Law. And then, like I said, Calvin Ridley is going to be added to that wide receiving room. And from what I've seen of him this year, he looks like he's meshing with those guys just fine. I feel like they just upgraded everywhere. I think Trevor Lawrence, continues to move up and grow as a quarterback. And going into year 3, I think it's their division to lose. It will be nobody's fault but their own if they do not finish with at least the 4th seed this season. Jumping down to the Indianapolis, like I said, I gave them an 8-9, but I feel like 6-11 is more appropriate in my head. But they're gonna have a rookie quarterback. That just leads to struggles. If it were me running that team, Gardner Minshew would start at minimum of 6 weeks before Anthony Richardson becomes the starter of that team. But with that being said, they do have Gardner Minshew as a mentor, veteran leadership to be next to him. So that gives me some optimism. They've got a strong defense if they remain healthy. That's the key. That was part of what helped. I'm not going to say help. That sounds horrible. But what caused them to tank so bad last year is their defense couldn't stay healthy. And then, there's obviously a lot of questions in the running back room with where's Jonathan Taylor going to go? Will he end up staying in Indianapolis? And if he does, will he play? So we don't know there. The optimistic part of the Colts is that their offense may not have a lot of experience and due to either being a rookie or being in year 2. It's a very talented offense that can only just slowly over time, just like, Trevor Lawrence developing, get better over time, because they had a really good year last year for what they were given. Nothing that they went through last year was a good situation, but some of these offensive rookies from last year, going into year 2, I think it's going to be a big improvement for them. And then, like I said about the veteran backup, to the Texans, they've got a rookie quarterback. That's the trend in the South. So obviously they're going to struggle, but Houston's put a lot of money into their offensive line, so hopefully they're going to keep C.J. Stroud on his feet. But they've got a really young, growing offense. They've got a great running back going into year 2 as long as he's healthy. They're kind of on a rebuild on defense, but I think they're only going to continue to get better with their new head coach in place. I think there's going to be a lot of struggle there, but there's a lot of optimism, things to look forward to within that franchise. And then the Titans, everything about them is a question mark to me. I think they're the bottom of the barrel, but they get the edge just purely for the fact they have Mike Vrabel as their coach, and I think they're very fortunate. I think D-Hop and Traylon Burks could be a fun combination if they have a quarterback that can get the ball to either of them. And that's another thing. Ryan Tannehill, Will Levis, the guy they drafted last year, I already forgot his name. Malik Willis. Yeah, we don't really know. Will we see who we're gonna see? How much of it? I don't know if Ryan Tannehill's even owed any money, so I don't know the question. There's a bunch of questions there. They do have Derrick Henry and a respectable defense, so they have a chance. I just don't feel good about them.
Hey, that's pretty awesome. It's the way that it really is, because Tennessee went from the number 1 seed 2 years ago to just on this decline, and I don't think adding a wide receiver is going to stop that bleeding, even with a talented defense. That's the reason why I had them at number 2. But the reason why I had them at number 2 is that I just think there's too many unanswered questions for Houston and for Indy right now. I think there's a lot that's going to have to happen for those teams to have winning records. I think they're going to struggle. I think they're going to be good at times. I think they're going to be horrible at times. And like you said, Mike Vrabel gives Tennessee an extra edge. Currently, what I'm excited about, give me something to be excited about for Tennessee in second place. Tannehill, this is probably his last chance. I think you would agree that if he has a struggling season this year, that there's going to be some moving on, whether it be Malik Willis or Will Levis going forward. I think this is Tannehill's last chance. I think Derrick Henry, I think he's kind of on his last leg as well. I know he's a great running back. I think this is that team that's older. DeAndre Hopkins is now older. He's, here. Traylon Burks, I think he might be hurt still. I'm not sure. I know he was carted off at some point in preseason. I don't know how serious it was. The things that I'm looking forward to is Tajay Spears, the running back from Tulane. He's dynamic. He's going to be a great punch behind Derrick Henry, probably a third down back. And, but besides that, Mike Vrabel's defense. Here we go again, talking about defenses. When teams don't have great offense, I talk about defense. But Derrick Henry and Tajay Spears running the ball, Ryan Tannehill, if he can get it to DeAndre Hopkins, they've got an opportunity. Jacksonville just seems like the cream of the crop. And once you go beyond, Trevor Lawrence has done a great job of growing each year. Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, and Zay Jones on the outside with Evan Ingram as tight end. That's a pretty solid wide receiving core and a tight end. And then you got, your RB1 is Travis Etienne, and RB2 is.
How did I forget about him?
Yeah.
How did I forget about him?
And then, but your second and third, and but Tank Bigsby is the rookie that they drafted from Auburn, I believe, and he's a good running back. And then you got Jermichael Hasty and Dearness Johnson sitting back there behind them that have experience. There's some good young receivers in there. There's a Parker Washington. He's going to be like a third string receiver as a rookie. I really think that Jacksonville and Doug Peterson's set up to win this year. I think that they're going to be the cream of the crop in this division. I don't even think it's going to be close when it's all said and done.
Do you feel like Jacksonville, Doug Peterson with Trevor Lawrence, what they're doing right now just kind of feels like, and I'm not saying they're going to have the same careers, but do you feel like it kind of feels like when Andy Reid got a hold of Patrick Mahomes at the beginning of his career? Obviously, Doug Peterson's a little bit, in year 2, Trevor Lawrence, but doesn't it just kind of feel like the same journey?
let's just talk about, if you want, that's a great point, because matching a quarterback with the right head coach and bringing them along the right way. Look, Trevor Lawrence, if he would have had another year of that no-named Ohio State coach, his career might have went down the toilet. But Doug Peterson is a stabilizing force at coach. He knew what keys to give him. He knew how to put him in the offense and make him successful as a pro. I think that's important. I think coaching these young stud quarterbacks is more important than just their natural ability. And Doug Peterson was the right guy for that job. And I think he saved Trevor Lawrence's career.
Yeah, and I mean, I think them being together, if they stay together for a long time, or at least 5 or 6 more years of Trevor's career, like he could be that guy, you know, like he'll be in the MVP running, you know, he'll be that guy. That conversation will be had. Like I just feel like it feels the same as young Patrick Mahomes in the hands of Andy Reid. Like you were like, you know, this guy just got blessed getting handed to Andy Reid. And that's kind of what it felt like, a blessing. Trevor Lawrence, you know, receiving Doug Peterson in year 2 to save him. And, you know, think about Patrick Mahomes going to Chicago. Do we think that would have been anything? Matt Nagy wasn't there yet, you know.
It's hard to fathom. Just one little change in the draft puts somebody with a different coach. You don't know what's going to happen. Their development could be 100% different. They could be a bench rider forever and never get over the hump. So coaching plays a big part. But you bring up one interesting point to end this video on. Being that the AFC South is going to be it's going to be a weaker division. Do you think Trevor Lawrence at the end of this season is going to be running amongst the front runners for MVP just because of his division and stats?
So interestingly enough, we didn't really get into divisional wins. I actually have Jacksonville with the least amount of divisional wins, even though they have the best record. And that's like a whole big debate by itself. But I think with the pieces around him, you know, the MVP stat, if you're talking about a quarterback, is the number of yards, number of touchdowns, any kind of rushing yards, anything that a quarterback can make happen is, you know, taken into consideration. And as long as he can keep the turnovers down with, you know, speed and the depth, if he can get his long ball down really well, paired with all the speed he has around him, he's going to throw for a lot of yards and he's going to have a lot of touchdowns. So yeah, to answer your question, I think he could end up at bare minimum top 8 finalist for MVP, but I think depending on how the season goes, he could be top 5, top 3 conversation by week 10.
So I was just looking at last year's numbers when I brought that up. Trevor Lawrence had 17 games. He completed 387 out of 584, 66%, 4,113 yards, 241 a game, 25 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions. And a 95 rating. That's pretty close to MVP numbers.
I think so too. I think just because his touchdowns were a little bit lower than some quarterbacks or players that were in that conversation, I think that's the only difference is, you know, if he throws for 35 instead of 25, he would be just as much considered in that running for MVP, like the finalist category.
He would have been right there with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He'd been right there. I'm not sure that he would win just because how that playoff game looked, even though they won it against the Chargers, things like that. That's all we have for today. Be sure to smash the like button and let us know in the comments. Tell us where you think we are wrong. Tell us what you think could be different. What are your predictions? Who do you think is going to win these divisional? Anything you want to dispute with us in the comments, we're more than happy to talk about it. But if you aren't subscribed to our channel, be sure to do so. This is part 1 of 4 of the predictions that will all be coming out very soon. We have only 2 weeks until football kicks off, so we're going to try to get these out to you as soon as possible. You have any last words before we get out of here?
I'm excited.
Bro, I'm so excited. The next video should be the NFC and AFC East So look forward to that. Like I said, let us know in the comments what you think so far. Or if you want to give us predictions for the East before we get to ours. I mean, our mind's already made up, but we'd like to hear your thoughts on that as well. That's all I have. If that's all you have, we're excited. We're ready for some football. We missed chatting and hanging out with you guys, so we will see you guys on the next one.
I got the cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gonna live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad, I just wanna get caught up in this life. I'm crazy, I'm mad, doing no cap. Only God wants, so you better go live it up. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Baby, I'm bad,
Yeah.
baby, I'm bad.
I just wanna stay bad, stay mad, chip on my shoulder cause they treat me like an outcast.